Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're doing something a little bit different. We are going to connect three worlds that honestly seem totally unrelated at first glance. The timeless psychology of human attention, the cutting-edge AI tools modern creators are using to weaponize that attention, and the absolute chaos of the 2026 NBA blockbuster trades. It's basically a masterclass in how information captures our focus today. Let's get into it.
Here is our game plan for today. We'll start by unpacking the psychology of hooks, then we'll break down 5 video hook patterns. From there, we dive into the AI basketball content machine, followed by those blockbuster 2026 NBA trades. And finally, we'll wrap it all up with a wild 4-team idea. All right, let's jump right into section 1, the psychology of hooks, or basically why we just can't seem to look away once our brain is engaged.
You know, there's this great piece of timeless wisdom from the advertising legend David Ogilvy. He famously said, "When you advertise fire extinguishers, open with fire." It's brilliant, right? It's all about immediacy and drama. The direct marketing pioneer, Joseph Sugarman, actually took this a step further. He argued that the absolute sole purpose of your first sentence, your hook, is literally just to get the reader to read the second sentence. That's it. It's a slippery slope of attention. You aren't trying to tell the whole story up front. You are just trying to get them in the room. So why does this work so well on our brains? Well, it actually comes down to something called the Zeigarnik effect. This is our natural psychological tendency to remember uncompleted tasks or unresolved questions way better than completed ones. Think about it. When a creator on a platform like LinkedIn sets up a curiosity gap or an open loop in their first couple of lines, it literally bugs your brain. You feel this psychological itch that can only be scratched by clicking see more. It makes it nearly impossible to just keep scrolling. Which perfectly sets up Jonah Berger's STEPS framework from his book Contagious. He breaks down exactly what makes ideas spread like wildfire. And whether you're a B2B thought leader typing out a text post or a sports channel dropping a crazy highlight, you absolutely need these elements. You hook people by offering social currency to make them look smart, using everyday triggers, tapping into high arousal emotion, showing public proof, offering practical value, or just dropping them right into the middle of a great story. Moving right along to section 2, 5 video hook patterns, which is essentially the ultimate playbook for short-form video. When you look at the digital video space, the top creators out there aren't just getting lucky. They are highly systematic. Today's algorithms are absolutely ruthless, and they demand immediate engagement in the first 2 seconds. So creators rely on these 5 structural patterns to guarantee people actually watch. They use the curiosity gap to tease information, the bold claim to completely challenge an assumption, the how-to promise for specific value, the story arc to show a dramatic before and after, and the pattern interrupt, like starting mid-sentence or using a jarring sound, to physically break your scrolling reflex. Let me show you what this actually looks like in practice. A weak hook says something like, "get more views." Is boring, right? It's totally generic. But a strong hook says, "add this one element to your hook and watch completion rate go up." This right here is a perfect example of why specificity is the absolute key to watchability. It promises a highly specific, achievable outcome that directly taps into what the viewer actually wants. Okay, so you've got them hooked. Now what? Well, YouTube creator Kunal uses this really slick 3-step script formula. First is the setup. You establish your premise in under 30 seconds. Next comes the body, where you deliver the promised value using clear, punchy bullet points. And finally, the conclusion, wrapping it all up with a clear call to action. Kunal actually notes that this mirrors the narrative pacing of hit movies like 3 Idiots. You set the scene, introduce the climax and the challenges, and then provide a super satisfying resolution. This brings us to section 3, the AI basketball content machine, where we see how creators are weaponizing this exact formula. This is where we see digital creators applying these attention mechanics to a highly lucrative niche, faceless sports highlight channels. Just look at this staggering number, $54,000. According to Next Level Analytics, that is the estimated monthly ad revenue generated by just one single faceless AI basketball highlight channel. With over 9 million views and an RPM of around $6.17, these creators are quietly building massive income streams simply by perfectly packaging the hooks and narrative structures we were just talking about. So how exactly are they pulling this off? It's a pretty precise 4-step workflow. First, they download official highlight reels using download managers. Second, they feed short clips into a tool called magichour.ai. They often use a retro anime style and prompt it with specific player names to animate the footage.
Third, they pull all of that into CapCut, mixing the real footage with the new AI animate clips to create these really dynamic transitions. And finally, they design a high-contrast thumbnail in Canva and test it on thumbsup.tv just to make sure it pops in both light and dark modes. But here's the catch. How did they do this without getting slapped with copyright strikes and losing their channels? They follow a super strict set of editing rules. They keep wide-angle shots to a maximum of 5 seconds and close-ups to just 3 seconds. They add an entirely original AI voiceover using 11 Labs to provide transformative commentary. Then they basically bombard the viewer with motion blur, glitch effects, and text callouts, all while completely rearranging the chronological order of the plays. This rapid-fire pacing is exactly what keeps the video legally transformative and visually unpredictable. Now on to Section 4, Blockbuster 2026 NBA Trades. This is the raw material that fuels the whole machine. Because an automated content machine is literally nothing without highly engaging raw material. And let me tell you, nothing drives engagement quite like the dramatic, franchise-altering reality of the 2026 NBA offseason. Let's look at the actual events fueling the algorithm, starting with this absolutely wild trade. The analysts graded this a stunning F for the Celtics. Their argument, swapping a younger, physical Jaylen Brown for an aging Paul George, significantly lowers Boston's playoff ceiling. Meanwhile, the Sixers walk away with an A+, landing the exact downhill scorer and elite defender they desperately need next to Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid. This kind of polarizing event, it's instant hook material. Next up is a complete landscape shifter. Giannis Antetokounmpo to the Miami Heat. Analysts give Miami a B+. They note that while Miami finally landed their superstar, the massive cost of the trade raises some serious questions about their half-court spacing. The Bucks, on the other hand, actually walk away with an A-. They recognize their title window was closed, so they secured a massive haul of young talent and future picks to completely reset their timeline. And then we have this super high-risk deal sending LaMelo Ball to Minnesota. The Timberwolves get slapped with a C, because they are betting entirely on LaMelo's volatile injury history, and they are severely thinning out their front court to do it. The Hornets get a B for basically selling high and gaining flexibility. Now think back to that story arc hook pattern we talked about earlier. Will LaMelo stay healthy enough to bring Minnesota a ring, or will this trade completely destroy the franchise? That is a perfect, ready-made narrative hook born directly from this one trade. Which perfectly sets the stage for our final section, Section 5, a wild 4-team idea. The ultimate trade simulation. When the real-world news cycle slows down, creators just spin up hyper-complex trade simulations exactly like this one to keep the content wheel spinning. In this massive scenario, Charlotte uses their draft capital to secure a franchise center in Jalen Duren. Milwaukee leans even further into their rebuild by acquiring a 2033 first-round pick and some youth. Denver desperately sheds $5 million in salary to navigate the second apron by swapping Cam Johnson for Grayson Allen. But looking at this deal brings up a pretty massive question. In this hypothetical setup, Detroit sends out Jalen Duren. Why on earth would the Detroit Pistons, a 60-win team, trade away a 22-year-old All-NBA center who shoots 65% from the floor? On paper, it seems like a massive step backward. The answer boils down to one singular word: spacing. Take a look at these numbers. Jalen Duren attempted exactly 0 three-pointers last year. The player Detroit receives in this trade, Miles Turner, shoots 38.3% from deep. The reality is, Detroit is facing a $160 million contract decision for Duren, and they know their franchise star, Cade Cunningham, desperately needs floor spacing to operate in the pick and roll. It's a high-stakes chess match of sports management. You're constantly weighing future finances against current roster fit. So, bringing this whole explainer full circle, we started with David Ogilvy and the Zeigarnik effect, we moved through AI anime video generation, and we landed on the crazy financial intricacies of NBA front offices. In an era where AI can remix a blockbuster basketball trade into viral gold in seconds, literally generating thousands of dollars, we really have to ask ourselves, is the real currency the sports highlight itself, or is the true product the psychological hook that made you click in the first place? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this changes how you look at the very next video that stops your scroll.